right, here we go.
Okay. Calling to order the Board of Education Teaching and Learning Room Tuesday, November 14th at 6:30. Present is myself, Dr. Williams, Board Member Evelyn Gleason, and guests are...
Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Matt Meany, Associate Principal at Browning.
Andrew Barczyk, Class Size Committee Chair.
Steve Green, Assistant Principal at Tinley Park.
John Caney, Assistant Principal at Hillcrest.
Adam Wagner, Assistant Principal at Oak Forest.
Okay, welcome. So the first thing we usually do is kind of take a look at our overview of kind of class sizes. And I know each building prepares their own. What you're getting now is a summation of what I looked at, comparing, this is now the 4-month analysis. So just kind of review for the committee. July, we look at numbers. This is right after summer school closes. We take a look at section numbers once some balancing has been done after summer school failures get added back in. Then in August, right before school starts, we take a look at it again to see if we need to add any sections. And then September data is after the 10-day drop. And now the December data, we're actually looking at second semester numbers. And so that's what you have in terms of the percentage of classes over the window. The column that's marked plus window tells you how many classes are over by how many students. And then you've got your under and within. So what you're seeing is by building. So I'll give you a few minutes to glance through and let me know if you have any questions. So just, this data was as of November 7th. So if you pulled later, these numbers are probably better than what you're seeing here.
So when we're looking at the window where it says plus window or under the window, that's for second semester?
This is second semester, correct.
So in this business section, we have 9 classes with just one student over each
No,
one.
that's actually one class. It's a +9.
Oh,
It has since been fixed.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was it.
That's one at Hillcrest.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we need to talk about that. We have to fix it.
Well, at least they're thinking about going into business then, I guess. Okay. We don't seem to be too fast.
Everyone ready to start discussion? Okay, what we'll do is we'll start with Bremen High School. We'll talk about if there was any issues from the first semester that we want to address, and then specific class size issues with second semester. So Andy and Matt.
There was actually a very large discussion at the last House meeting of the union about class size, and I've been given some stuff to ask, specifically about the windows, and there was a debate as to amongst the House members as to, we have the window for each class. And then the +1, +2, plus whatever. Some House members are upset that that we're allowing so many classes to go over that window, just in general. And like I understand because we've worked together in the past. I understand that sometimes it comes down to honors classes and AP classes and that kind of thing. But there are a number of House members that think that us going over the window is not a good thing for any classes.
Okay, and while I can appreciate that, there's many times where it's just not possible to balance. And for every class that's over the window, I can give you 5 examples of classes under the window.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be perfect. We also don't have enough classroom space that we could run every class under the window.
Mhm.
What we negotiated years ago was specifically to make sure that lab classes don't go over.
Yeah.
Because of there's only X number of lab stations, you can't add any more lab stations. So that is what we negotiated. You know, if there's certain concerns on a specific class we can look at, but we went around to every single building, looked at every single classroom, and that's how we based our class size.
Mm-hmm.
So I know everybody would
Yeah.
love to have small classes. We also know there's research out there at the high school level that class size doesn't necessarily impact academic achievement. So, you know, where is the sweet spot? How many kids is an appropriate number?
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to hit that number 100% of the time. It's just impossible.
Okay. I know at Bremen, you know, just looking at these numbers here, you said we're looking at the first semester first. I overall at Bremen, I recall things being okay for the most part.
Okay.
I believe there was one science section that was over. I forgot who it was though. I think it was Swipe or Apple or one of them. You know, and I know that, like you said, that's the issue with the lab space, where I believe that he had kids that couldn't have a lab space.
And it potentially, if I remember correctly, that could have been the only section of that
Yeah.
class, if it was especially the AP Bio, and I
Yes.
can't remember which one
Yeah,
offhand.
I think that was the issue. You know, but that was the only thing that really jumped out, I think, at Bremen
Okay.
for the most part.
Anything for second semester?
Second semester, I'm just looking at the list here, and for science, it looks like there's a +3.
There's one section of +3.
Yes,
Okay,
It's the first
and that's the honors physics first.
I believe so.
And is that I don't know science. Is that a lab class?
It is.
It is, okay.
Yes. Let me just double check. Yes.
Okay. And that's the only section of that too, right?
There's actually 4
Oh,
sections, but they're all
they're all over.
over.
Okay.
Let me double check since November 7th. Let me see if any changes have been made.
Now, at that level, is there like an AP class that they could, or is that only an honors class at the freshman level?
That one is only the honors class.
Okay.
Numbers are still the same
Okay.
as of today.
Yeah.
The only thing I would look at, because I don't remember first semester being this overloaded, Matt, make a note for Ed. Sometimes board members will see an increase in class size second semester because kids who failed the course last year are now being rolled back in.
Okay,
So let's
okay.
look at the number of students that might be the case, and is there an alternative for those students?
That was another issue that was brought up at the House meeting of kids who have failed an honors or AP class. Might it not make sense for them to maybe move down to a lower class because they failed at that level? Maybe it'd make more sense. Here, obviously, there is no other.
Right.
There's no regular.
Well,
level.
there is a regular physics
Okay,
first,
there
yeah.
is.
Mhm.
Maybe it would make sense for them to, instead of being re-enrolled in that honors class, maybe move down to the regular level.
APs, what do we typically do in that case if we have an honor student that fails?
Work with the student, the parent, the counselor, and the teachers, kind of see, where is this kid at? Was it a matter of, did he have something happen during the semester to where they're out for a week because they were sick and that's why they failed? So it's kind of case by case, whereas if the kid just simply wasn't grasping the content, covering all their homework, they're not doing well on tests, then okay, then maybe we would move them down. At the semester, you possibly could if a kid's really struggling like that. It's just so if he's not grasping the content.
Okay.
And I agree that we would look at each student individually and see whether or not we thought they were ready to be successful in that class.
Okay.
Anything else from Bremen?
No, there's the one PE class that's 5 over. I know that sometimes, is that still 5 over
Let's
though?
see.
Because I don't think
There,
it,
no, there's no other ones. This was
Okay.
today.
this was run today, so that looks like.
Oh yeah, is that
was
the one I just checked
Yeah.
before we came? Okay.
Yeah, so that's been taken. So yeah, everything else looks good at Bremen, I think.
Okay. All right, Tinley Park. Steve? Anything from first semester that you know that you want to address?
No, the only, it worked out okay. And we had talked earlier in the year about the the econ. It was right at the window. I'm glad we didn't have the class. It was one of those that we were at 2 over, right at the top, and we were trying to add. I'm glad we didn't because there was no need.
Good.
So we always thought there would be a transfer. It just happens every year. We get a transfer. As soon as you go over at 2, 3, now you're looking at computer spots and things like that. So I'm glad we did it.
Good. I appreciate that.
That's
Thanks.
right.
That was first semester.
Okay.
How
How about second?
comment is for the math. I know there's a few over. This is where, again, going back to teacher discretion, where the math teacher was recommending those changes. So they would have a kid in honors and say, or some other, put him in my stats class. I don't care if I'm over. I want this kid here. So with the math, the teacher was willing to work with those kids and no, bring them. I'll take that kid. So when the math was over, that's usually what the case was with.
Okay.
So it was a good thing.
Okay.
In the sense that I don't care about being too big. I want this kid because I know the kid and I can work with him. So,
Okay.
or her. So.
Other than that, I know you guys had a PE of a +5. Let me see what it was.
Yeah, I don't have that on my. Oh, I do.
We have a science at a +4. Let's see.
Honors Chem.
PE was team sports.
Mm-hmm.
But now you said that's not over anymore. We're not sure.
No, I couldn't find it. I got
Okay.
It. I got it. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. What happened there?
Yeah, we're still at a +5.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's only 2 sections there. The other one's at the window.
It is. It's very trying with the PE this year. With these singleton sections, we're having, or 2 sections, we're having difficulty putting these kids in the class they requested because we're taking care of their core classes. And especially if they're in band, that's what's really killing us as far as when you only have a singleton PE class and and they didn't.
That's the only thing that fills in their spot.
It's very difficult to get them in the right PE class, so that's where we're having some difficulties, especially being new. I don't quite know where to put these kids.
I don't know if just being new. The PE is very, very, with so many choices, the
Yeah.
PE is unbelievably challenging this year.
Yeah, we were-
It's been a challenge, and we're just doing the best we can.
I would agree.
I know we were talking about that today at the principals meeting. I don't know that we have a solution yet, but we need another year to kind of wrap our heads around which classes would be good alternates if something doesn't run, and if we can try to link up, because I know the other concern was because of the semester classes that some students have to change core class teachers
Yep.
as a result.
Yeah.
In some cases, that may not be a bad thing, but in other cases, that may be.
No, yeah.
Depending
No,
upon
yeah.
You're absolutely
dynamics. So the other one, Steve, was honors chemistry, crept up to a 28,
Yeah.
which wasn't the case first semester, I
No.
don't believe. So if you can kind of do some digging on that
Yeah,
one.
absolutely.
It's 5th hour. In the other 2, we've got 2 honors chemistries running 6, and they're both well under the window. I don't know if it would help. Again, if those are failures coming back. Because, let's see, first semester, sitting right now, was only 24 students, so somehow 4 students, that class should have never been opened to begin with, so. I'll just make a note there. Anything else at Tinley? Okay, Hillcrest? John, anything from semester one?
We had a few problems semester one. I mean, at the beginning of the semester, we had that one studies, studies in contemporary lit. No,
Brit
Lit. That was really, I think it was like 35 or 36. It was Mr. Fitch's class, and so we worked with. After the class had been going on for a while, first we offered all the students in there who would like to try AP. It's close. Why don't you challenge yourself? I think we had one kid take us up on it. And then what we did is there were some students that were just really struggling, and so we offered them a chance to move down to the regular level without a penalty. Because, you know, with 35 students, and if they're struggling, it's hard for him to give individual attention at that point. And so we did eventually have enough students to take us up on it that I think the class was won over by the end of the semester. We do have a couple of, I know, studies in English. There's 2 sections at 32. I know that teacher has expressed concern a little bit, but it's only 2 over the window. It's an honors class. And so the only thing I would say that's bad is we've had a few students that we've had a number of freshmen transfer in, and we've had 1 or 2 that we really would like to give studies in English and haven't been able to because we're going to overload it even more. Where they've been in honors classes. I mean, we have a student that's actually started in Delta that's been extremely successful, even transitioning into AP Geography. But we had to put him in regular English, which is kind of a shame for that student because we're over the window. And besides that, I think we have 1 self-contained class after we split a couple of self-contained classes with all the freshmen that came in that we're adding to those numbers. We do have 1, the functional health, that's over by 3.
Any opportunity for those students to take regular health?
Well, I mean, now it's this is first semester, so we
I
have
thought
to
we were talking
move
second.
them out.
Okay.
So. And the REI health, regular health, was the health class that we worked with to get the numbers back down to because I was kind of loaded. So.
Okay. Anything second semester?
Second semester, we had a number of things on the page that you saw that I've actually worked late last week, a couple of days, put most of my time into working with the counselors and then just going through student schedules, balancing things. So most of the stuff is gone. We do have 1 self-contained class that's over by 3, that's Foundations of American Lit, so it has 16.
Okay.
I'm not sure we can go through each one of those students and see if there's one that can possibly move up, but we haven't been super successful in that. I mean, we'd have to really see a student that, I think the case managers have really gone through their students to make sure they're following the page 5s this year. So it would have to be a student that's being really successful that everybody agrees needs that extra push. I don't know that that'll happen. Besides that, we have the Geometry A.
Okay. Going back,
Okay.
so you were at 15 Foundations of American Lit. So we added 1. Is that a failure?
It probably is a student that needs, most likely if it jumped up second semester, it's a student that failed
Okay.
before. That needs that to graduate.
Do we want to maybe look at kind of like what we did with the other class we talked about? If they're not a senior, is section for it next year?
Well, if they're a failure, they are a senior because it's American Lit. It's the junior level class.
You're right. Sorry. Brain cramp. You're right. Okay. So at this point, do we have a plan from Lisa?
I don't know if there's a plan for that one or not. Like I said, we can go through every student.
Okay.
But if they all belong there, I'm not sure what we can do. There's only 1.
Well,
section.
outside of, we'd have to add a section, which would have to go to the December board meeting.
Yeah.
Because I've used up the 4 sections that you guys already approved.
So it'd be nice if we could figure out how not to do that for 1 student.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll sit down with Jackie and go through all the students, and then if we see any that we think maybe are potentials to move to a different class, we'll talk to the case managers.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else?
On Geometry A,
Geometry
we
A,
talked about this earlier today. We're over by 9 seats. We only have 2 sections. And so what we're planning on doing is grabbing the seniors that are in that class and helping them get their credit through the credit recovery program, some of the seats in credit recovery to move those numbers down. So I'm confident we'll be able to get that. I don't know if we'll get it right at the 27, but so that we're keeping it, at most 1 over.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And then honors geometry is 3 over. And it's at 32 now. It's jumping to 33. There is a failure that's moving back in there. But I did look at that student today because I wanted to know who it was that they were moving in there. And it's actually a student that did fail honors geometry first semester, but has been really successful in all of their other honors and AP classes. So it almost felt like an anomaly in that
Yeah.
they were recommended to go back in there last year. It's just the new registrants we've had, or that kicked our honors geometry up. So,
Okay.
so there are a couple of kids that are struggling that hour. So I want to look at those and see if maybe we should move them down. I don't know. Are they struggling because they need the support of a lower level class, or are they struggling because they belong there? They're just not working hard enough.
Sure. And that's the only section of that class,
Mhm.
board members, just so you know.
Just as a question, are there regular geometry classes that are under the window there?
There are regular geometry classes that are under the window, but not by much. All the geometry classes in the school, both the geometry A's and the geometry A's are obviously well overloaded because there's only 2. But I looked at the regular geometries to see if that was a consideration for some of the geometry A students as well. And most of them are either 1 below the window or up to 1 over the window.
Yeah.
We've used most of the seats,
Mm-hmm.
but there may be 1 or 2 kids we can move that way.
Okay.
Any other questions about Hillcrest or anything else you want to mention, John?
I think we have a couple classes that are over by 1 or 2.
Just
Normal stuff.
as a general thing, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I know I've talked to a few teachers, and it seems that this year, most of the kids had shown up on day 1. That I know for like the first time ever, I had like perfect attendance on the very first day of school.
Mhm.
I've talked to other teachers, they've said the same thing. I don't know if that's an anomaly or if that's now the trend. So like when we're sectioning, maybe, before, I know in the past we've always been like, hey, X amount of kids aren't going to show up. I don't know, have you guys seen that overall?
I think we had a sense of every kid showed up and then some. We did have some more transfers, especially at Hillcrest, unexpected. Bremen, not so much.
We're
Like we
kinda
had
even.
last year,
Yeah.
and the year before that was a big influx. Oak Forest is usually pretty stable, and Tinley is usually pretty stable. But when we go through the sectioning process, it's based on the kids requesting the class.
Okay.
There are cases where we know, for example, freshman courses, we try to under section, so we don't necessarily section at the top of the window because we know we're going to get, that's usually where we get the influx of students. There may be 1 or 2 cases where we did section over the window because we know course master schedule building is going to kick some kids out.
Yeah.
But we don't follow that process across the board.
Okay.
And the APs please chime in if you disagree, but we don't purposely over section at staffing.
Okay.
We don't overload.
And different classes have different trends too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
There-
econ.
Yeah, there's some classes
They
that
take it in
you
the
know
summer.
they're trending under,
Mm-hmm.
some are, and they'll section accordingly.
Okay.
And we have that conversation. I mean, as one of the things I do to prep for sectioning is I add this year's enrollment, and I have trends from 2008 for every single course. What the enrollment was before sectioning and what the enrollment was once the school year starts.
Very helpful.
So then we can, when we have a discussion and a building says, hey, we need 7 sections, well, let's look at our trend data. Your trend data says 6. Or, what your trend data says, you're going too tight, we need to add.
Yeah.
So we take all of those, again, you're talking about movement and mobility and things like that. It's not going to be perfect 100% of the time, but it's pretty darn close.
Okay.
And honestly, I think we got 2 transfers this week. That's another,
Yeah.
number's a number,
Yeah.
so when you start adding them in, that 1, 2 over becomes 3, 4, so it's tough.
And those are kids we didn't
Yeah.
section for.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And where's that tipping point where how do you justify a section for 3?
Mm-hmm.
Because while you may put that in, there's no guarantee it's going to split evenly.
Yeah.
You may not even solve your problem because now you've disrupted so much on the other end.
I know on your end it doesn't help, but
It doesn't feel like it?
It's in days we need 15 days.
Amazing. Well,
You know,
transfers can't make that difference,
it's-
especially like a
it's
foundation
so
class.
fluid.
There's only
It's
so many
just-
kids in
Yeah.
there.
One of the things, that I'll jump ahead kind of to on my radar, and I've had a conversation with a couple of you about this, but kind of revisiting as we're building the master schedule, is to keep in mind while we section for certain classes, we also have the liberty of flipping out. And what I mean by that, I'm looking at two sections right now at Hillcrest. College Algebra Trig, we sectioned 2, they're both sitting at 12. Why is that not a class of 24 that you could then flip that out, but you have to do it before the kids come to school.
Yeah.
So it's being proactive and looking at the numbers frequently to say, you know what, this doesn't make any sense, let's collapse and let's flip it out over here. It's just kind of revisiting that you do have the ability to do that. So, anything else for Hope? Hope Force.
First semester, everything was seemed great. Everything was within 1 or 2. The only sections that were really tight was fitness and safety and health. Pretty much all the sections were, for the most part, either at the window, slightly above, but again, everything within 1 or 2. Second semester, we're looking at the same thing. We don't have any class that is more than 2 over. And again, I think that the counselors, their main focus is trying to avoid that at all costs, but in those certain sections, yeah, you're going to see that. Like, I think that if you look at PE, I believe that each one of those sections that is over would be the health and fitness and safety classes, 34 to 32. Teachers are great. We have fitness and safety on the mobiles, which it's a much larger room, so it still works out. So everything
Good.
seems okay.
Okay. Any final comments, board members? Anything you'd like to add about the class sizes before we talk about some window challenges?
Okay.
I appreciate trying to, give the students what they want, because that's really what we're here for, and pushing them to a higher level. I'm always supportive of that. I think you've got to challenge them. Appreciate that.
Myself, they included on those comments, and some guys are working hard on that. Last month or the month before, we saw everything was perking up as far as students' grades and achievement. So, outstanding job to you, gentlemen, and your staff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So what you're looking at now are the windows, and based upon course curriculum handbook changes, which we are going to be going through tonight, and you're welcome to stay to hear those out. What you're seeing in gray and/or it has been stricken are the changes. So we're looking to add AP World History in social studies, so they'll have the same windows as the other AP courses, 20 to 30 across the district. Second column, all of the freshman math courses are being replaced with Math 1. So pre-algebra is becoming Math 1 Prep. Algebra 1 is becoming Math 1. Algebra 1 Extended is Math 1 Extended. Honors Algebra 1 is Honors Math 1. So we're going to be dropping the old names, replacing with the new ones. The windows stayed the same. On the back side, we're looking to add Honors Heritage Spanish 2, which will have the same windows as Heritage Spanish 2, the 21 to 28. Principles of Engineering is a new course. It's the second level of Project Lead the Way, so it will have the same class window as Introduction to Engineering, which is Project Lead the Way 1. We're going to be dropping the next 5 classes due to lack of enrollment and or teacher certification. And then over on the right-hand side, the only PE class we're going to be adding is Lifetime Fitness and Activities 2, because we have a 1 and we have a 3, but we don't have a 2, which is for the sophomores, to kind of complete that track. And that will have the same windows as the other freshman course, sophomore courses, 28 to 32. So those are the only changes there.
Are we free to share this yet, or it has to go?
No, it has to go through board approval,
Okay.
but I just wanted to, since this is our only meeting, wanted to put those out there, and then it will be in the memo once it's been approved. Okay, and then obviously the sectioning sheets will reflect those changes. Any comments or questions about the windows? All right.
there was only one other concern that was brought up, and that was more of a Bremen issue, and that's with the number of classes versus the number of classrooms that we have, and that I know talking to Matt and talking to Ed that we are at the max capacity for classrooms, and there was some concern that should enrollment rise over the next 2-3 years, is there a plan, long-term, short-term, for possibly helping that situation? I know there's talk of like maybe doing more 7 o'clock classes or something like that, or I don't know.
I know from a building perspective, we will be including 2 new additional classrooms within the field house. That means we'll also be able to gain back the weight room, the cardio room, which we've looked at possibly splitting into classrooms, not including, with Excel taking over a possible additional classroom. We should hopefully eliminate any, scheduling issues that we currently have.
That was the last concern we had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Are the building plans out there for the phase 2, for the field houses? I mean, are the teachers aware of the configuration of the new field houses? No.
I am not. No.
I thought it was up on the website.
No. That's what
I'm not sure. I know the renderings
Yeah.
of the field
Oh,
house
but
are out
the
there.
floor plan isn't up.
Yeah.
No,
I'm not seeing.
I know the renderings, we just, as associates and as athletic directors, we were kind of still working on kind of the layout of where everything's going, and meeting with Terry and Ari as well as Jim about placement of the different things, and just had some questions and concerns about some of the layout before it was actually.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as board members, we knew there were classroom spaces
Yeah.
available.
Yes.
and
Exactly
I didn't
right.
realize that that wasn't public knowledge at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. All right.